even in your 4 years in university, it's really difficult for you to explore the different verticals through internships or even like the mods that you do in school. When you read the articles itself, right, you can actually get a sensing of, okay, which are maybe 3 to 4 verticals that I might seem interested in, then use those as the gauge to kind of look for internships.
I remember when we first started out, we had an issue where we tried to Google what are the different verticals or different areas of marketing we can actually cover. So from there, when we got the whole list and we actually put it into a magazine, such that people who are more interested in, let's say, the creative side, or people who are more interested in the data side can know which kind of careers they can go for.
Nicole Ng and Daniel Lee co-created MARKON to help future batches of marketing students to learn about marketing tactics from passionate marketing students and professionals. Nicole Ng is a marketing and design enthusiast, and she graduated from SMU with a major in marketing. She's also experienced in performance marketing, UX designs, and events. Daniel Lee, on the other hand, is also a branding and marketing enthusiast, aspiring entrepreneur, and coach. He started a social project, Equipo Sports Academy, to impact youths through sports. He's also experienced in brand marketing and research. So basically, I've got the founders and creators of MARKON Mag, a very useful magazine for undergrads who are studying marketing to know more about this field. And I'm so glad that Daniel and Nicole has taken time to join me in this podcast, really just to talk about why they created this MARKON Mag and what are their thoughts about marketing, and as well as their own careers.
Thanks for having us, Andrew.
Dude, that was not rehearsed at all.
That was not rehearsed at all. Yeah, it's part of it, man. So Daniel, let's start with you, right? Tell us a bit more about the creation and the marketing MARKON. Maybe you can tell us a bit about who does what, because I understand that both of you are the co-creators of this magazine.
Yeah. So I think this idea conceptualized when Nicole and I, we both met from this intern insight sharing that was organized by Marketing. So the idea was actually from 2 of the other panelists, right, our batchmates as well. So they had the idea of like starting like this blog, this content blog to write different articles and stuff around marketing. Yeah, and I guess fast forward, Nicole and I decided to execute it. And I think Nicole brought in the point about how a lot of our seniors or even our batch also felt that, we actually didn't get a full perspective of what marketing is, what are the different verticals in marketing. So we thought that, hey, as a graduating kind of project, right, let's work on something that we can actually give back to the juniors. And we also got the consensus from the other batchmates as well to see like were they keen and stuff like that. And we kind of knew different people, right, who like really specialized in different verticals in marketing. So for example, SEO, CRM, stuff like that. So we knew that they were passionate about those things and they would be more than glad to kind of write about those things. That's when, Nicole and I, we both divided and conquered and just reached out to them. Yeah.
So you did
Nicole, you can add on in terms of both of us did. I mean, Nicole has more networks than I do actually. She can.
Just so happened that usually we are in a class and we have a lot of schoolmates also in the marketing major, and we do know that generally in a university we will take at least or about 2 internships on average. So most of the time these internships, at least in marketing base, they'll vary. Because I realized for myself, I did quite a spectrum, like from advertising to brand marketing to performance to even marketing communications. But even through that, I still feel that I didn't learn enough. So then to Daniel and I, is how else can we translate all this knowledge and actually like share it with others? Because the thing is that we can always learn, but sharing is always something that's tougher, I would say. So we feel that's where the magazine would come in. Yeah.
Now, when you say tougher, right, I can understand how difficult it is really to produce this. Now, it's a great idea, right, that you put together articles from different experts of different fields of marketing and put it together in a magazine and then distribute it to your juniors. How did you, what sort of challenges did you face along the way, and how did you overcome them?
In terms of challenges, in terms of distribution, Daniel and I did face some issues. So generally, we understand that it will be easier for us to reach out to people from our school, from SMU, Singapore Management University, because that's where we're from. And when we got our contributors to write that too, they're generally all students as well. So it made it easier for us to reach out to the faculty to say, hey, do you mind just sharing about this? But then it gets tougher when we try to reach out to other schools, because to them it's like, then what is it in it for us? Because they're not going to share much. Like the contributors are not from like National University of Singapore, they're not from Nanyang Business School, and they're not from like other communication schools. So there is actually quite tricky, where they say, what are you going to get something out of this? They're not too sure intentions as well. So we just said like, hey, it's up to you if you want it, but then this is really indeed a free resource. So it's up to you if you want to take it, but then this is for you to see and see if it's indeed useful for you. So I think in that aspect, Daniel and I also got lucky. We actually put it on a Reddit, on a subreddit called SG, was it SG Students? So basically it like blew up, and we actually got around 50% of our first week traffic just from that subreddit channel. Because a lot of people were like, hey, the people who are on that subreddit really love like free resources, and they really enjoy things that are indeed useful and insightful. So we're glad that it reached to an audience that seemed to benefit from it.
Yeah, I think from that channel also there are a lot of like pre-uni people, so like NSS, people who haven't even started university, downloading it, and it was quite significant. I think it's like one third of all the downloads.
Yeah, correct. We're surprised. We're super surprised.
Like, wow, the new generation of people are really like,
Because
it's good for them.
We were intending it for the undergraduates more so than the ones who even started like way before, like what Daniel said.
Yeah, well, I guess they are very interested in the field of marketing, and a lot of people are interested in, especially in digital marketing, since a lot of advertisements are on social media nowadays, and many of us are exposed to social media. So what sort of positive comments have you received from some of the readers that really impacted you?
So there's this guy called Joe Escobedo. So he's a B2B social selling expert on LinkedIn. And he actually, Rina, who's the one who actually wrote one of the articles in MARKON, she shared the magazine on her LinkedIn, and Joe actually commented and said like, this looks more professional or something like that, looks better than the professional magazines out there or something. Yeah. So I'm saying this because Nicole was the one who was mainly driving all the design. So I think maybe I don't know how comfortable she would be to actually say herself. But yeah. So kudos to Nicole on that.
Thanks so much, Daniel. But I think also both of us, we actually do receive a lot of emails. So generally how we disseminate the e-magazine is actually through email. So although Daniel did automate the process for us so that it would be much easier on our end, we do receive like email replies going like, hey, I really love the effort you guys put to do this. Do you mind like sharing more about it? So then we do also have some readers who actually reach out to us on LinkedIn going like, hey, I read your article on this, thank you so much for doing this. So it's like messages like these that makes us keep going. And also, I actually do have one reader who, after reading, she decided that she wanted to contribute a piece. So I only added in like recently. I haven't really blasted out or shared it yet. But then, so basically, from her perspective, she studies human resource HR, and sometimes you can't really put that together in marketing. But then she's like, hey, do you know even for HR, we do have marketing, and that is on employer branding. So to us, it's like even our readers can say like, hey, you know what? This is something that I think people will benefit and I want to contribute to it. So then it's like things like these that really make Dan and I go like, oh, people do use what we intended for it to be. So we're glad.
Yeah, that's great because inside I've also read the articles, and they contain several perspectives. Perspectives from a marketing student, so that they can advise people who haven't gone through the course yet, so that they know what are the important aspects. And I think the valuable part of it is that it helps those people who have just joined marketing to figure out what sort of specializations they can go to right ahead of time, because people have already explored it, and they have also laid out what are the career opportunities in there as well, right? So what are some of the most important concepts in a nutshell about marketing that you want people to know, especially for those who are thinking about doing marketing, but they're just not so sure which specialization they can go into, because there are tons of them out there, right?
Yeah, I think it's not so much about concepts, but just understanding the bigger picture of marketing. Because I think the word marketing kind of just simplifies everything into the word marketing, right? So some people, they do not really understand what are the different verticals. So I think, and even in your 4 years in university, or even if you like cram into 3.5 years, right? It's really difficult for you to explore the different verticals through internships, or even like the mods that you do in school. So I think just having an understanding, like when you read the article itself, the articles itself, right, you can actually get a sensing of, okay, which are maybe 3 to 4 verticals that I might seem interested in, then use those as the gauge to kind of look for internships to actually try. So, you actually narrow down the chances of you actually going for something that you don't actually like, and speeding up that process actually, yeah.
I'm not too sure, Daniel, if you remember, but I remember when we first started out, we had an issue where we tried to Google what are the different verticals or different areas of marketing we can actually cover. Because, Andrew, I'm not too sure if you know, but if you were to Google, there is no one set like structure on like what types of marketing there are out there. There's no such structure. So the best we could do was to think what are the different roles that we've never heard of, we see on LinkedIn. We do not know much about it, but subsequently we found out, we're like, hey, this is pretty interesting. So from there, when we got the whole list and we actually put it into a magazine. So when we did our testing with some of the readers, like sort of like a beta testing, we actually got feedback, like what you mentioned. There is no proper way or a sense to structure, such that people who are more interested in, let's say, the creative side, or people who are more interested in the data side, can know which kind of careers they can go for. So what we did on the content page was we actually put like little legends. So we have like one legend that's for data. People who are more like data driven, or who are generally more structured towards things, they might prefer things like marketing analytics or programmatic marketing. Whereas people who are a bit more creative and a bit more strategic would want to go for things like advertising, or even brand strategy, brand marketing. And then we have one that's like a bit more on the operational side of things, such as retail marketing, or even like customer relationship management. So when we at least segment them, we're sort of telling the readers like, hey, do you know that we have like marketing is more than just making something fancy or like making something beautiful through design, but we do have various aspects you can look at. So I think that's where Daniel and I, we were like sort of like brainstorming, how do we therefore bucket all these,
Yeah, we spent a while like trying to shuffle around the articles, which
We
one actually
did.
is the best flow. How do we, is the content page like too messy, or how do we best like show it to people so that they best know how to navigate the magazine?
I saw the graphics in there, and definitely, Nicole, I must say you have a good taste of those graphics, right? And I did a little bit of research as well into what kinds of graphics are these, and I figured out that it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's called isometrics, something like that, where the designs look like it's in a 3D kind of a design. And it's
You are
actually
correct.
one of the marketing trends of this age. So it sounds like we're talking about marketing a magazine that talks about marketing, right? You're trying to clean up the content page so that you don't lose the first time viewers, because you want to make sure that you present it in a compelling way that ensures that they will be able to find something that they want in there.
And
So
Andrew,
tell us.
do you know what is the best part about that? The best part is that whatever we did is actually on a free platform, on a free resource. So the reason why you're able to see a lot more of this sort of like isometric graphics is because there are more creators out there these days, and they are creating such library of free resources, such as anybody like us, who has an idea. We have the various resources to actually execute them. So so when we get all our content and even all the design, every resource is actually available online, which is why like even for myself, I realized how valuable it is to know that there are such resources available out there, which is why like also in our webpage, I actually put like a page of free resources that people can go to like upskill themselves. They can go and learn more about advertising, can go learn more about where they can get certain graphics like the ones you see in our magazine. So the thing is that nowadays everything is so easily available online, and if you just have an idea and you just need to take action, you can actually create something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is one of my observations as well. That given the boom of the internet age, right, we have so many resources online. How then are we supposed to package it and select the most compelling content and put it together like almost like a secret recipe, like you're trying to bake a cake, right? You select the best ingredients and you put it together, but you don't necessarily need to use everything, right? So tell us a bit more about how did you market MARKON magazine, right? Because definitely you talk about emailing to distribute the magazine, and also putting it on LinkedIn. What is the thought process about marketing this magazine?
Huh. Uh, I think it was very helpful. It wasn't really a planned thing that because I think word of mouth, right, is really one of the most traditional but really most effective ways of marketing that a lot of people still kind of undervalue. And I think the fact that we had 16 or 17 contributors to the Marcon itself, that really helped. And there was this unintentional way of like propelling the magazine forward. So because we didn't want to, when we launched, so we actually had 3 waves of launching Marcon itself. We didn't want everyone to in the same day post it on their LinkedIn, right? So it's like if you scroll through LinkedIn, you might see like what 17. I mean, if you know everyone, see like 17 posts on Marcon. So we didn't want that to happen. So we actually scheduled the contributors to post in 3 waves. Yeah, and I think, but the thing is also that because LinkedIn actually notifies you when someone, if let's say you like a post and someone else likes it or something like that, you actually get notified. So because we had these 3 waves, instead of seeing all of them in your feed itself, right, what you always see is just the notifications, right? But so the whole process of launching Marcon was really extended, and that really, I think, enabled us to gain more reach as well. And because there were 17 contributors, so really everyone's that really just multiplied the connections. Yeah. So I think if you were just Nicole and I who just shared it on our LinkedIn, definitely you wouldn't see as much reach in a sense.
We actually got fortunate as well because some of our friends, when they read it to them, it's like, hey, where was this resource when I was like a sophomore or when I was a freshman? And the thing is that they actually shared it as well. So I was quite touched to know that I have friends who are from NUS and NTU who also shared it on their personal account on LinkedIn to actually share with their circle and network because they felt that it was something that was indeed beneficial. So then that was like the first wave where we did everything through LinkedIn. So nearing to when school start, I actually reached out to the school faculty. I reached out to all the marketing professors because I do know that some marketing professors actually teach cross schools. So then I got them to say, do you mind if you could actually share it with all your classes before, like on the very first week of school? And I actually got feedback from some of my classmates who do know me and be like, hey, the prof actually shared your magazine. So I was really touched by that. But also on top of that, we still tried to reach out to the various marketing clubs and CCAs in NUS, in NTU, and we tried to reach out also to polytechnics because we felt that since they have a business course, we do know that there definitely will be some students who are interested in this space. So not saying that it was 100% smooth, but then here and then we did find a lot of independent creators also who are also in the same headspace as us, who want to share information. And through that, I actually found out also about more people who are like-minded, who had the same idea like Daniel and I. So it was mainly just these 2 ways we have done it so far. And I guess the most recent one was when one of the school officers actually covered us by writing an article on Daniel and I, and and our school official LinkedIn account actually did share on us. And then you commented as well, so I'm pretty sure you've seen it.
Yes,
So
yes, the one on yeah.
yeah.
I think it's great. Word of mouth probably is one of the oldest form of marketing, right? If I go back to the Stone Age days where there's no technology, you basically just tell each other, "Hey, there's something good over there," and it's surprising how effective it can still work today. Did this surprise you at all?
Not really, actually. I think in terms of word of mouth, it's sometimes it's unplanned, which you can say is surprising. But I guess the fact that it works itself, it's not really surprising. I think it's just innate, lah, right? Like in terms of us being social people, we just want to share information. We just have network around us. Naturally, if you really like something, you will talk about it. Yeah, and it's just part of human nature also, I guess, in terms of this social sharing and word of mouth kind of thing. Yeah. Which actually was okay, so since I'm talking about that, right, I just had a conversation with a friend over lunch yesterday, and they were saying how marketing is fluff. So there is some research behind it, okay? There is some research behind certain strategies, right? You gotta say fluff, you can say fluff, but yeah, certain ways that there is some certain science behind why we do certain things. Yeah. Just putting it out there.
So we're talking about the behavioral stuff, like why certain people would click this and not click that. Tell us a bit more about that, because some of the common objections to marketing is that marketing is just fluff, or we're just running ads, and some people may have some misconceptions about them. Do you have any thoughts about what are some of the most common misconceptions that you have heard, and what would be your response to that?
Number one, I think the one that Daniel and I always say is marketing is fluff, marketing is bullshit. But honestly, if you have an idea and you're not able to tell a good story, you're not able to really tell the users why, or tell your customers why is it that they want this, or what value do they bring, then I guess, this is where you start to realize that marketing is indeed important. So for marketing wise, it is important to draw your attention, especially right now, when you mentioned that there's a lot of things happening on the internet these days. We're all fighting for attention. So the marketing is where you come in, where we actually storytell and show you why is it that you have to focus on us? What is the kind of value that we actually bring to you? So in a sense, it's more to tailor and to personalize that aspect to really tell the customers as to what is it that we indeed can do for you. Honestly, a lot of people will say like, oh, this one almost anybody can do. But it's really not easy to be able to say all this with with only like a few amount of words or characters. As you know, we also want to make sure that things are succinct, things are short. We want to get that impact because we're all fighting for like just that microsecond of attention. So marketing in this day and age, and yeah, this is more or less what I feel about marketing.
Yeah, so on Nicole's point about storytelling, right? I mean, some people can say, oh, you're just telling a story, like anybody else can tell, and it's like, who knows whether it's real or not, right? But I think ultimately, as a consumer, if you're the one, if the story is meant for you, right, you will only act on it, or you only be persuaded by it if you actually believe that it can actually help you that certain way, right? So the story to tell is not just plucked from the air, or like, oh, sounds nice, some very fanciful words, put with some nice illustrations and stuff, and there you go, right? That's how you package it. I don't think that's the case. I think it's really it stems from a thorough understanding, right? I mean, marketing always stems from a thorough understanding of the consumer. What do they like? What do they not? What do they dislike? Right? What actually drives them? What are their pain points? Right? So the story that we tell, it's actually to address these pain points, address these needs, their desires. What do they want? What do they like? Yeah, and if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not for you, then yeah, it's not for, it's not for you in that sense. Yeah.
I think one thing that Daniel mentioned, which is true, is like how all of us as humans, we innately want to share with people something. Now, if you ask ourselves why is that the reason, like what Daniel says, because they felt that it was useful to them, and because mainly it's on the emotions. So even for negotiation, because I recently just spoke to a CEO of one of the company that brought in Marvel Avengers Station. Essentially what makes people in the end, like get that deal. It's on emotion still. It's not so much based on logic, on data. That one people know for sure. But what differentiates it is indeed how did they feel at that moment, and are you able to capitalize on that? More so, yeah.
Yeah, no one buys things purely out of logic or rationale. Yeah, if you think about it, I mean, if I want to buy, if I want to eat something, right? I mean, if it's purely out of logic, where I just want to feed myself, right? I just want to make sure I can survive. Then I can just go for like the 250 cai fan lah, right? I don't have to, go some fancy restaurant and spend like $50 or something, right?
White rice every day, Daniel.
Hey,
White
yeah.
rice every day.
Yeah, so it's really, people are really just driven by emotions, and it's not a bad thing. It's not wrong to purchase out of emotions, but from a marketing standpoint, there is both the functional and emotional aspect that we have to cater to.
It sounds like there's a lot of research and work that needs to go into trying to get the attention of people, given that there's so many things going on online right now, and just to get a few seconds would practically mean an advantage in terms of dollars and cents for a business. And Nicole, you mentioned some very an interesting point about trying to bring up an emotion in people. So thinking about marketing, right? What exactly is the impact that you think marketing should bring to a business?
Oh, definitely, it's to be able to really exemplify, really share the core features the product has. So generally, let's say marketing aside, a business has say or will go like, hey, we got a product, we got a service. We know that we're going to sell mainly on this point and this point. But then it's marketing to come in and say, hey, but is this what your customers are really looking out for? Is this what your customers really feel strongly for? So one good example on customer relationship management is with like Four Seasons Hotel. So what they did was how a lot of people think that, okay, to make my customers happy, I'm sure they have like a 5-star suite. They must have everything perfect. But guess what? After they did research, they found out that what really sets the difference is how comfy the pillows are. So can you imagine if they didn't do a research? They would spend so much money finding out, oh, I need the perfect sofa, I need a great chandelier. But no, all the customers were wanting to get was like a very, very comfortable pillow. So imagine if that wasn't done. Like marketing, we also look at how we look at the relationship between the customer and the product and the service. And what is it that actually makes them even happier or makes them buy into the product? Or we also need to find out what makes them not like the product. So then we know, okay, maybe we should work on that, things like that. So this is where I feel marketing usually comes in as a great, I would say more as a great support, but it's very, very crucial in terms of how they exemplify and they share the value it can bring to the customers. Because without that, I'm positive that the other the other departments may not do as good of a job as when it comes to storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is this notion, right, about how like marketers are really supposed to helm the whole customer experience function. Yeah, you're supposed to really provide insights to the company as to everything about your customer, basically, so that the rest can then do their job. The point of Nicole made about marketing being a supporting function, I think that's how companies see it. I think increasingly more and more are taking the point of view that marketing should also be a revenue driver. So it's more of a partner rather than just a support to like just feed data. But I think there is significant results that the marketing team can bring as well, both short term and long term. And I think over time we will see I think the marketing function is evolving, especially with all the data that we're having right now, and technology as well. MarTech and everything is becoming a big thing. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So moving on, right? In the MARKON magazine, you've gathered like 16, 17 contributions. And in that process, you would have networked with and talked to so many people. What is your approach when it comes to networking with people in this industry? Because I can imagine that networking perhaps can also be seen as a form of marketing, in the sense that you're marketing a service that you want to provide. what advice would you give to people who's like new to networking and really just want to get into the field, right?
This is right up there, Ellie. You asked the right question. All about personal branding.
I was gonna say
Go
that
for
Nicole
it.
has a large network, so she will be the best person to talk about this.
Nicole, go for it.
Nicole, you can share first, Nicole.
It is something that you and I talked about before, like how it is on personal branding. How do you market yourself such that you're able to meet the right people and find the right opportunities? Because I think almost across anywhere in the business sector, you generally have to be able to network to know and find good opportunities. So I think for me, the first thing I would say is to be sincere and to be very earnest and be very proactive in what you do, because people do see that, like things like, I think a lot of people do miss out is sort of like how personalized your personalized invitations can get on LinkedIn. If you actually do research, I think a lot of people also do not really do their research, but if you research on the person that you want to talk to, see like what kind of papers he or she wrote, articles they did, what jobs they do, at least in a sense stalk them a bit, them inside your personalized invite, so they know, hey, this person took time to went to look up on me, to went to look up what I did. Okay, maybe I'll chat with this person. So the other thing is also to be, I would say to not be afraid, because so what's the worst that can happen? You just send an invite, and if they accept, don't accept, at least you sent it. So to me, it's mainly these. But for me, the very first thing is to make sure that you're comfortable with using the platform and make sure that you are comfortable with showing who you are. It's really not wise to pretend to be somebody you're not. I think you make it very, very hard.
Nicole, what about networking off LinkedIn?
Networking off LinkedIn. So Daniel, what do you do when you network off LinkedIn? Because for me, I sign up for random things on like meetup.com. Oh, another pro tip. So if you were to search, for example, on the industry that you're interested in, for example, for me, it's like UI UX or marketing. You search on the hashtag on LinkedIn and then you save it. So you know how they keep feeding you like the more interesting posts along throughout your days. You can actually find local events that are happening that are mainly not in like event post, but it's like some people who are just sharing like, hey guys, we're having a marketing event or a marketing meetup in Singapore. You want to check it out? So this is actually how I got to know of certain events, and I do sign up for them and I talk to the speakers. So this is generally how I did it. Like technically it's still part of LinkedIn, but it's technically still out of LinkedIn, if that's what you're asking. How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe just giving the whole, like from the, if let's say you're not on LinkedIn, right? What actually you can possibly do. It's difficult, right? I mean, if you're year 1, year 2, if you go for your like physical networking events, assuming that still happens, right? A lot of questions come to your mind, right? Okay, when is the right time I can approach this person? What questions am I going to ask? And sometimes you might go there with the objective of, I want an internship. I want to know what roles are available. Yeah, but I think it's helpful, and I've embarrassed myself quite a few times as well. But I think it's helpful to have your own perspective of things as well. Because I think sometimes even the professional himself who's there, he doesn't just want to be talking as well. He doesn't just want to be sharing his information about a company. I think he wants to know who you are, how do you think, right? Networking is about that, right? It's a two-way thing. It's a two-way communication. So I think at the start of my like year 1, year 2 days, it was really about, I was just like going out to people and asking them about the company. And I was like, oh yes, and I was just agreeing with everything they said. And they just left me with nothing to say. I'm like, okay, what did I say? I really have nothing to say. So I think having a perspective of certain things, and that, like what Nicole said, means you have to do some research on the person, right? What's his job scope about, so they can actually ask, let's say there's this project that he worked on. How do you guys go about working on that project? Do you guys consider this other point of view or idea in that sense, and stuff like that? So I think always having your own perspective, it isn't wrong. And even when you network with people on LinkedIn as well, right? Back to LinkedIn. I think when people post certain stuff, not just commenting like, it's great stuff, or just liking it, but really, I think people appreciate it if you kind of have a little kind of, not say debate, but like discussion.
Questions to probe, yes.
Yeah, questions to probe, right? I think that makes it interesting, rather than it just being a one-liner that just closes off the conversation. It actually opens up the conversation to network. Yeah, I think that's what networking should be about. It's not just about, I have how many connections on LinkedIn, right? But how many do you actually constantly talk to? Yeah, and I think having, if you're able to muster the courage to speak to someone in a, be it webinar or physical networking event, if you're able to get a discussion going, then it's much easier to connect with that person on LinkedIn as well, to then have that relationship going for an extended period of time. Yeah, so I think that's how.
Just need to cross that one hurdle. Cross that one hurdle, ask that one question.
It starts with research, right?
Yes, it does.
And it's very simple research actually. You don't really need to. You don't have to dig out the whole person's life history or whatever. Just go the past week. What was he doing? Or the past week, what did his company or organization do? Yeah, and that can just be a starting point to open up a lot of things.
What's that hurdle, Nicole? You mentioned.
The hurdle is really just the nerves and the fear to even ask a question. I think it makes it much easier now, the fact that we have webinars and people can just type their questions in. So that really helps a lot with the nerves. But I also do understand back in year 1 and year 2, I was also very fearful. I've never actually said a word at any networking event physically in year 1 and year 2. Only subsequently, I start to understand hey, I actually should have a purpose to why I come down. So usually when I tell my juniors or undergraduates who ask, if you're going to a networking session without a purpose, and the networking session is with lots of companies and people, generally it's not advisable unless you're just going there to see what companies there are available, because you're fighting you're fighting for attention. So then you want to make sure that the recruiter actually at least remembers you. So this is where Daniel mentioned you actually have to ask purposeful questions. You actually have to make sure you do a bit of research and make sure that you do make an impact, because they're not going to remember you, or at least keep you in mind if they have a supposed opening or opportunity. Yeah.
Wow, I think those are great tips, right? And Nicole, it sounds like getting started on networking in person and having that personal branding, it's like trying to ride a bicycle for the first time, a two-wheeled bicycle that you got to overcome the fear of falling on the left or on the right. But once you know how to ride the bicycle, you can go anywhere.
I actually haven't rode a bicycle.
It's time for you to try one. But so then in that context, right, do you believe that great marketing or great marketers start from personal branding, in the sense that they need to know how to connect with people? You need to know how to do your research and ask questions and go out there and meet people. That is to say that someone who is great at marketing would also be great in personal branding.
Not necessarily, actually. I don't think so. I think a marketer would see how personal branding is beneficial, but I don't think they need to be good at personal branding. I think there's a lot of aspects to marketing itself that if you can be really, really very good at it, but personal branding may not be of interest exactly to you. And I think branding itself is not something that you work on yourself. Whether or not you actually actively work on your personal brand, you have a brand, right? I think it's quite common already. Like, a brand you don't actually create your own brand, right? But what you can do is you can shape the perception of your brand, right? How do people view you based on what you do, what you talk about, and what people know you for, right? That's your brand. It's not you saying that, I do this, I do that, know me for this, know me for that. It's what other people say. That's your brand. So I think as a marketer, somebody may have a very good brand, but it's not because he or she actually worked on it, but it's more because someone else actually knows this person for, let's say, SEO, for example, and he goes on to tell other people about it. And I would say the guy is an expert at that function of marketing, but he may not be doing anything about his personal brand, right? So I don't think it's something that you actually require. Yeah.
As in personal branding aside, the way I saw what a good marketer is, I'm also not too sure how to put it in words exactly, but if you're talking about in a role or in a function, it is the way that they're able to solve the issue and they're able to work cross-functionally. Because I think that a lot of times, a lot of undergraduates also have this issue where they say like, oh, I'm marketing, so I just stay in marketing. I don't need to know what finance is talking about. I don't need to know what ops is talking about. But that's not the case, because fundamentally we have to understand marketing is just a part of a business. We're just an extension. So we need to really understand. I think a good marketer understands the fact that all these different functions come together to serve one purpose, which is to make sure that the customer is having a good experience, to make sure that customers receiving the goods on time, definitely with as little cost as possible. So understanding their very nature and being able to work with others, I think that is what makes a great marketer, to be very honest.
Yeah, the point about cross-functional, I think that's because, marketing itself, it's the nature of it, the fundamental, be it 4 Ps or 6 Ps, how many Ps you want to call it, right? It does cross into every function in the company, right? From your pricing, right? Finance, your customer service to the delivery. So it's like the op side of things, your logistics side of things, employer branding, right? HR. Yeah, I think it really covers a lot because it's the whole customer experience, and the whole customer experience is basically what the whole business is about from every single function. Yeah.
Now, I think it's interesting that it goes back to our initial discussion about how marketing is huge and there are many pillars of it, and you can just specialize in one technical aspect of it and not necessarily in the overarching concept of it, because in marketing there is MarTech as well. There is probably some programming as well that goes into SEO, trying to figure out how do social media algorithms work, which really is beyond my technical expertise. But someone who is great at that may not necessarily have the most fancy LinkedIn profile, may not necessarily be the best talker in the room. But then that goes back to show how big this field is, that individual contributors and specialists would be needed to really deliver this as a team. What is the greatest lesson that you have learned from creating MARKON?
For myself, is the fact that we can just have a simple idea, but when we push through it, we can actually see results that I feel that were greater than what both Daniel and I expected. Like, we did understand the effectiveness of word of mouth, but I think both of us didn't expect the magnitude and the scale that we could potentially reach. So to us, it's really from the very simple fact that honestly, with a simple desire and with the heart to do something, if people can see that raw interest and the raw interest that you have, they do support. So I'm quite glad. And also, I'm also seeing that there's actually a lot more content creators, I would say. A lot more people are also trying to be able to find out what is necessary. Like what you mentioned before, Andrew, there's a lot of things that are going on online. How can we best, curate and get the most effective resource out there? So that was like the main lesson for me. What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I think for myself, it's collaboration, right? Because I think a bit to what Nicole said as well, like if it's just Nicole and I don't think the final product would be anything like you see now. It's really from all the contributors, their feedback as well, even even like the year ones and year twos who gave their feedback. I think everyone had their own different parts to contribute. For example, Nicole had all the design elements come in, right? And then pulling everything together. I think, really, if you want to execute something, you need to work as a team. And I mean, I'm not gonna quote that quote, right? The one which is super cliche, right? The one if you want to go far, you go with. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that, but you guys know it. I think really collaboration is key. Yeah, something that I really learned.
Very nice. So on behalf of the fans, I want to ask: will there be future issues of the magazine? Will we see more? Back then, when I looked at your website, the website says that it's going to be a single issue, but now it seems like there's going to be a second or future episodes. Tell us what's in the pipeline.
Truth be told, we did think of having a second one given the response, but I think in the first place when we created MARKON, we expected it to be a one-off because our contributors were in fact people who are still searching for jobs or people who are going to enter their first jobs. So we do understand that there might be a difference in the terms of commitment levels we will be receiving. When it comes to the second edition, Dan and I, we had a couple of meetings where we were thinking what's the best way to scale it. But I think after this resource, from both of us, we weren't able to find what is the next best, I would say, medium or next best channel in order to further people's like learnings. So I think this is something that we're still working on, which is why we do not have a definite date as to what it is you can expect. But we're happy to just, chat and discuss and learn more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what we want to do, we don't want to just create something just for the sake of creating something. I think what we want to do is really want to know what people want, right? What else is it that's lacking? And yeah, if we see an opportunity, something that Nicole and I can both come in and work on, then it's definitely something that we'll do. I think right now it's just seeing what's needed, what people want. Yeah. Back to customer experience, exactly back to consumer behavior. If not, marketing is
Andrew, sorry, just to share,
Hey,
right?
go ahead.
In our magazines, when we pick the colors or when we pick certain like graphics and all that, we actually do keep in mind, we want to create this very joyful image. So again, it just boils down back to the kind of feelings we want to make sure that our readers have. We don't want them to be too intimidated. If let's say it is a totally serious looking magazine, they'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so serious. I don't really want to read this. Is this really for me, a beginner? So we try to make it something that's supposedly more friendly, but not too kiddish in that sense. Yes.
Yeah, I like the graphics and they look very inviting, and they actually look very fun to read as well. Huh? So yeah, I think it's great that I saw that you guys have a Twitter channel as well, where people can come and post stuff that they want to see in the future magazines, and you have your email there as well, where where people can just basically tell you what they want to see, right, in the future episodes. So where else can people find you on LinkedIn if they want to connect with you? What are some tips that you would give them? Because you mentioned that you want people to do some research first before just sending a simple message, right? So what are some tips that you would give people who want to reach out to you and also contribute some ideas for the future episodes of MARKON?
Truth be told, from my perspective as a marketer, I like to know on the attribution. I like to know where did they find out about me or Daniel or even MARKON. How did they find out? So we'd love it if they heard it through your podcast and be like, hey, I heard it through Andrew's podcast, so that's why I'm here. Good job on something. I have some ideas. That is more or less how I would prefer. Generally, people do reach out. Because I do receive quite a few of those invitations where you have no idea how is it that they know about you, things like that. Yeah.
You don't. I would say you don't really have to personalize your invitation, but also it kind of depends also on your profile in that sense. I mean, if I see you're a SMU student and stuff, I would kind of know that okay, probably you want to talk about MARKON or something. Yeah, but if your profile is a bit more dodgy, then you might want to add some personalized invite. Yep.
Very nice.
Feel free to reach out. Yeah.
I just want to get a quick word as well. What are your thoughts about your career plans now that you have launched a very successful magazine? What are your thoughts and where are you right now in terms of your career aspirations?
I'm currently studying my last semester in SMU. I'll be graduating in by the end of the year. So I'm currently still job hunting, looking for a job. So any recruiters out there, please hit me up. Yes.
So I'm currently doing marketing for AI startup called Tiger. I think it's why I kind of chose this job because I think early on in a career, I think it's good to kind of build across verticals in marketing, right? So I think this job actually allows me to do that because it being a startup, there's a lot of opportunities for me to get exposure to different areas, be it events, marketing, even PR, social media. And I think it being a B2B company as well, it gives a different light to certain things than the usual B2C company. Yeah, so I think right now it's learning, seeing how much I can absorb from the different aspects of marketing. But I think for me, in the long run, I do see myself, right, the social project that you mentioned earlier. So it's actually pronounced as equipo, which is Spanish for
Really?
tea. Yeah,
I mispronounced it.
I mean, but in equipo is how I would expect Singaporeans to, and it's fine as well, because ultimately, our aim is to equip youths, right, with a growth mindset through sport. So I think ultimately that's where I want to head towards. But I think right now it's really seeing what I can learn from the corporate world first, and then ultimately, marketing, you can bring it. Yeah, I'll bring it to my business next time if it becomes a business. Yeah.
Nice. And Nicole, I know you'll do great because job hunting is another marketing exercise, and I'm pretty sure you will nail it as well. And Daniel, you are going to be an entrepreneur. You're going to run your own business one day, and you're going to bring all your marketing expertise onto your business. Yeah.
Yep. So let's hope that happens.
I know it will happen. So thanks, Nicole and Daniel, for joining me on this podcast. If you would like to learn more about Nicole and Daniel, feel free to reach out to them on LinkedIn with the tips that they mentioned as well. And thanks for joining and listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.